Mishnah 18, second parak. Rebbe Shimon says, Chave Zachir b'Kriyas Shema u'b'Tefillah. Be careful. Chave Zachir, be watchful, be cautious. Pay attention. Do it with thought. It's not a throwaway. Right? With Kriyas Shema u'Tefillah. Shmon Esrei, Tefillah, davening. Kesha'ata mitpalel. And when it is that you are davening, al tas tefiloscha keva. Don't make your tefillah fixed. And we saw a preceding mission that says ose sorsecha keva. Your Torah, Shammai says your Torah should be fixed. But Shimon says don't allow your tefillah to be fixed. We'll try to figure out why those two differ. Ela rachamim b'tachanunim lifnei hamakom. But rather they are an appeal for compassion and supplication. You're asking for mercy, and it's a supplication. It's an appeal. It's right? Before hamakom. Lots of different names for Hashem. This is the name of Hashem, which is hamakom, the place. God who's everywhere. God's involved in everything. Right? People like to ask the question, where in the world is God? Right? This is happening to me. Where in the world is God? The answer is, where in God are you? Right? It's not, God is not here. We're there. He's the makom. He's the place. He's the playing ground in which all of this takes place. Right? He's the ultimate reality. It's not where in this world that we have, that we run, do you squeeze in God? And so Hashem is omnipresent. He is in every place. He is hamakom. Right? Rabbi Shimon Omer, Chave Zachir b'Kriyas Shema u'b'Tefillah. Right? To be cautious in Kriyas Shema, you have to be cautious in Tefillah. U'kesha'at mitpalel, that time that you pray, ein tas tefilosecha keva. Don't make your prayer fixed. Right? Ela rachamim v'tachanunim lifnei hamakom. Rather make it an appeal for compassion and mercy. So the next question you have to ask is, what's prayer? It seems to me, if I asked you, is prayer variable or is prayer fixed? You would likely tell me prayer is fixed. Every single day you open up the Shema, 3 times a day you walk up and say the same Shemon Esrei. Alright, so here's how these two things are going to fit together. We're going to first deal with Chave Zachir. We're going to first deal with structure. Then we'll deal with variation. So the first piece is Shema is important. So the first thing you have to do is recognize there's God. Second now is tefillah. So what is tefillah? Lahit palel comes from the word to focus. Right? Some people say it means to reflect, but it really means to focus. Right? Hashem, there's a person saying Hashem talks about Beis Tefillati, the house of my prayer, that He prays. Right? It talks about Hashem wearing tefillin that say our name on it. What do you mean God prays? Who's he asking for cookies from? Right? Tefillah does not mean asking for cookies. Tefillah means focusing on what's critical and what's important. Who am I, and what do I need from the world? Right? That's what tefillah is about. What's life about? It's the ultimate clarity of what's important. So you should look at the structure. You have to understand the structure of prayer. Right? Shmona Esrei is exactly the same every day, kind of. You start with an opening. Right? If you look at an art scroll, you look in many Sidurim, you'll see that above the paragraph it has a single word. Right? The art scroll says Avos, patriarchs. Right? Gavuros, God's might. Right? Kedushat Hashem, right? The holiness of God's name. That you start with those 3 brachas every day. Whether it's a Tuesday morning, or whether it's a Friday night Mariv, or whether it's Ne'ilah, or whether it's Rosh Chodesh, or whether it's Rosh Hashanah, the first thing you have to do is say, who am I talking to? Right? Tefillah is focus. So the first thing you must do before you can pray is have a clarity and recognition as to who you are speaking to. So we focus on 3 different aspects: the personal relationship with our fathers, right, His strength and power in the world, and His holiness. But that's the same. That never changes. The end of Tefillah, we come back and we say thank you. Right? We focus on the temple service. Right? We say Modim, and we walk out. We say Shalom, we say peace, and we walk away. It's leave taking. So tefillah is always based on who am I speaking with, and walking away with gratitude, of course it's tough. What differs is what's in the middle. So that's where you really understand what's important. Right? Tefillah means lahitpalel, to focus. So what you are focused on a Tuesday morning is different than what you're focused on a Friday night, which is different than what you're focused on Rosh Chodesh, which differs from what you focus on Rosh Hashanah, which is different than the focus of Yom Kippur or Ne'ilah or wherever. Right? That's where the body of tefillah prayer changes. So now you ask the question, should it be set or should it be not set? So he says, Havizacher b'Kriya Shema tefillah. It has to be set. You have to recognize if you want to speak to Hashem, there's a process. You must first know who you're talking to. You're not going to get anywhere if you don't understand who you're talking to. When you're done, you have to be the kind of person who takes leave, right, and says thank you. Those pieces have to be. So the middle, you focus on what's important. Right, so let's talk about our daily lives. What's important? What do you want out of life? If I told you could daven for one thing, you only get to ask for one thing, what would you ask for? You only get to ask for one thing. You walk in and you have your first shot. What are you going to ask for Hashem before anything else? So some people would say, money, give me wealth. Some people say, give me health. Right? So that's not the Jewish approach. The Jewish approach is if you walk up to Hashem and you get to ask one thing, you say, please God, give me clarity. Don't let me be confused. I had this discussion today that's very difficult. The hardest thing right now in this whole treatment approach, I have a very unusual cancerous circumstances. The hardest thing I'm getting right now is lack of clarity. That every oncologist I speak to has a different approach, and they all feel that the approach of the other is a risk. And there's no clarity. There's no clarity as the proper way to proceed. This way is harmful. This way is irrelevant. This way, no matter what, you don't have a decent chance one way or the other, so why to... It's a lack of clarity. Now, what do you ask for? I should just ask for health. Right? Sometimes I'll think it's like, I'm going to close the book and go and daven straight for health. But the ultimate answer is, if you had the choice of being a dumb, blonde Texas cheerleader who was perfectly healthy as a horse, but knew nothing about what life was about, or you could be struggling with whatever issues you're working on, and you're not always so healthy, you're not always so rich, and times are a little bit tough, but you're there. You are spot on with what God wants from you, what your life is about, and what a relationship with your friends or your family, your kids, or your wife, what it should be. He says, the Jew says, Atah chonein la'adam das. What do I want? You gave men knowledge. And you taught to a human being, Bina, it's wisdom. We want clarity and understanding and seichel. That's what a person asks for. The idea of tefillah is the reason it's set is tefillah is focus on what's important. The rabbis codified the Shemona Esrei because they want to give you a hint as to what's important. That's why it's codified. The reason we have an order of prayer is because if you walk in and the first thing you say to God is, please God, give me $50, it's a mistake. It's a mistake. That's not what a human being is supposed to be. Right? You're supposed to say, please God, let me be clear on what my life is about so that I'm clear that I really need the $50. Right? But clarity is what you're shooting for. Knowledge and understanding and chachma and wisdom and sense of what the world is. To know who you are, know what your life is and what it's about and what's important and what's not important. And there are people who will pay very, very high prices to have that clarity. But clarity is ultimately where it comes from. Then you say, please God, tshuva. Let me want to come back to you. That's next. Please God, let me want to be close to you. Then you say, when I want to come back to you, please want me back. Forgive me. Right? Then you ask for redemption. You get away from yourself. But see, those first things you're allowed to ask for yourself. You're allowed to focus on yourself first to the extent that what you're saying is, please God, let me be clear, let me want to be close to you, and take me back to you. Then you leave yourself and you move to Geula. I'm now pretty much good shape, right? I understand life, and God loves me. Now let's worry about my brother, and my neighbors, and my friends. Then you can come and ask for help. But you see, there's a hierarchy. If you walk through just reading, right, and then you can ask for wealth. Right? And you see, you go down the various pieces. Then you ask for kiruv. Right? It's interesting where you come next. So the end answer is you're supposed to focus on what's important. That's what tefillah is about. When he says Havi Zachir, is your teachers want you to know it's not random what you're focused on. If you're not focused in the right order, you're making a mistake. There's an opportunity that presents you in your life. The opportunities that will come on Shabbos are different than the opportunities on a Tuesday. The opportunities that come to you on Rosh Hashanah are different than the opportunities that come midweek. Right? So you have to stop. You can figure out tefillah just by reading the headings. Just stop. Read the heading first and say, I'm asking for insight, for clarity. And then read the words. Read them in English and think about like you're parsing a Mishnah. The words are important. We can't do a whole shiur on the words of Shemona Esrei. But the underlying idea is this Havi Zachir b'Kriya Shema. You have to do 2 steps. Here's your connection to God. 1, Shema. You have to know there's God and nothing else except for God. There is no other power. There's nothing else that can affect you. There's nothing else in the world except for God. Second, you have to learn to focus on what's important. And the rabbis will give you a list. Here's the list. Carry the list in your pocket. This is what you're shooting for in life. This is what's important. Please God, I want to be clear. Second, I want to be close to you. Third, I want you to take me. 4, I want my civilization and society to come with me. Right? I want us as a society and civilization to be redeemed. When you take care of that, then I can say, can you take care of the tumor in me? And then can you figure out how I'm going to make a living since I'm not going to be working? But it's hard because you want to jump right to healing. It's hard to get a handle on. Now that we know that, now you can move forward. Right? So then he says, now you know what it is. So he says, okay, tefillah, I've got a list. So he says, all toss tefillah sal keva. Don't make your tefillah fixed. Right? But how's that supposed to be? How am I supposed to make it, right, an appeal for mercy if it's not, I have to go down the list? So he says those lists, as you said, those are the headers. It's like, please God, I want clarity. But I want it in a personal way. It's not just, oh, boss, give me clarity. Daven. Right? A teacher who said, when his wife was very, very ill, and he spoke to his father, who was a very big Rav. I don't know how the mashal came about, but his father said, ask for the cure the way your 4-year-old asks for a lollipop. It's not a raw intellect. Mean it. If you really want the lollipop, ask for it. Right? Even now, it's like I'm going through all this, and I still find that much of my davening is by rote, and it's just ridiculous. There's certain tefillahs that really start to appeal to you. The Tilm in Tachanun, where it says, please Hashem, favor me for I'm feeble, and heal me for my bones shudder, and my soul is confounded, right? Save me, There's no mention of you in death and the pits. Who will thank you? And when you're sitting there, it's like, find words that speak to you. Certain times in your life, man, that speaks to you. It's like I'm sitting up at night thinking, when the doctor says it gives you percentage chances that are lower. I mean, if it was a batting average, you'd send the guy down to the minors, right? It's not going to be, but it forces you to think about the world, right? It says when he says make it a real appeal, that doesn't say about Kriya Shema. Kriya Shema is an intellectual process, but tefillah is an emotional process. So you have to focus on what you want, what's real. But then that has to convert into an emotional response and take your heart out to Hashem. And it can't just be a set piece. It's not a performance. It's not about chazanut and who can sing it and who can dance it. It's about, you have to really want it. You have to really ask for it. So then you come to the last piece. Ki chanun v'rachum hu erech upon chesed, right? V'nicham el hara, and then it says, V'al ti rasha bifnei atzmecha. Don't see yourself as evil. What stops a person from davening? What stops a person from connecting to Hashem? What stops a person from connecting in society? We have a whole culture based on low self-esteem. So this isn't so much low self-esteem as that once you think you're a bum, you're a bum. What's the point? I'm not good enough to do it. Right? How does your body convince you to do Aveiros? Once you've done one, so then you feel that you're a bad guy. You don't qualify to do the next mitzvah. You don't qualify to do good because you're a bad guy. And as long as I'm a bad guy, I might as well do bad stuff. Right? They tell you with kids, you're not supposed to look at your kid and tell your kid he's a bum. Because then he'll say, well, I'm a bum. You need to tell your kid you're a wonderful person, and that's an inappropriate action for such a wonderful person. But a kid with such character can't act that way. A kid with such kindness shouldn't act that way. You can't say, you know what, you are a mean, miserable creep. Because then your kid will say, all right, I'm a mean, miserable creep. And you know what, this is what mean, miserable creeps do. What are you bugging me for? Right? You're precious and sweet and wonderful and kind and wholesome and upstanding, and I love you. But don't do that to your sister. Right? Don't do that to people. So people do that to themselves. The easiest way to turn yourself into a destroyed human being is to look at yourself as a destroyed human being. Because then you're no good. You can't get out of it. And unless you define your nature as that broken thing, there's nowhere to go. There's just nowhere to go. All right, that's 18.